Welcome, cursed friends, to 3 disturbing stories about the horrors of working retail. First, we will discover a terrible secret which may have deadly consequences for the workers in a store. Next, we will learn how the ghosts of the departed refuse to leave even though their shift is over. And finally, we'll hear how a rude customer receives his karma from a spooky, unexpected source. I had been working at the returns desk for 3 months and had gotten to know my coworkers and manager very well. I liked them and I found the job interesting. My job was to process returns. I had seen all kinds of returns, from clothing that didn't fit to electronics that didn't work. But there was one customer and his goods who began to catch my attention. He came to the returns desk every week. He would bring in a perfectly sealed box, claiming the item didn't meet his expectation. I couldn't help but feel curious about the customer's returns. The boxes seemed unopened, yet they were far lighter than the contents should be. I asked one of my coworkers about the customer's behavior and was told not to question it. As long as the boxes appeared unopened, we had to accept them back. I dropped the issue and continued to process the returns every week. But my curiosity got the best of me one day. After the customer left the store with their refund as usual, I picked up the box he'd returned and took it into the back room. I carefully opened it, and my heart stopped beating as I peered inside. The box contained a meticulously designed voodoo doll, pierced by 3 long needles. The detailing was done so well on the doll that I had no question who it was meant to represent. It was the wife of my manager. I was horrified and couldn't believe what I was seeing. I didn't really believe in voodoo, but the malice this doll represented was very clear. Unfortunately, I couldn't tell my manager because I wasn't supposed to open the box and spoil its condition. So I put everything back inside and closed it, determined to push the image out of my mind. The following week, the same customer returned with another box. My heart pounded in my chest as I took the box from him. But as soon as the customer left, I took the box to the back room. My fears were confirmed once I opened it. Inside was another doll, but worse. This one resembled my supervisor's young son. This doll, too, had been pierced with needles. I couldn't keep silent. I went to my manager and showed him what I'd found. The man's face turned pale as he looked at the contents of the box. "I made a deal," he said quietly. "A long time ago. I didn't think it still..." He shook his head. "I made a deal to ensure the success of this store. How do you think we became so successful and could compete against the big stores? It's impossible. But this made it possible." "What did you exchange for your success?" I asked in horror. He looked down at the voodoo doll of his son. "It's my problem. I'll deal with it. Never open another box again, or you're fired." But I wasn't convinced he dealt with anything. The same customer returned next week with another box, and the next week, and the week after that. I knew for a fact that my manager's family consisted only of his wife and son, but the customer continued to bring in boxes to return. Whose dolls were in those boxes? Then one day, my coworker complained of excruciating pain in her upper back. She said it felt like she'd been stabbed. And that's when I knew. I quit that day. The store continues to succeed despite fierce competition. And because of that, every time I feel a twinge or a mysterious, sharp pain, I wonder if it comes from my body or from a doll sealed inside a box somewhere. The store I'd been hired to work at was the last business on a lonely road into the back roads. The customers that came in were campers and hikers, sometimes fishermen. But customers in general were few and far between. This wasn't an area for tourists. Those who came up usually had all of their gear carried with them. It was a quiet, peaceful job for the most part, and I enjoyed the solitude of working alone at night. It allowed me to catch up on my reading. Cell phone and internet service left something to be desired, though, Sometimes I couldn't get a signal. But books entertained me well enough. That is, until I began having issues with the scanner. The scanner was old, and probably the cheapest model the owner could afford. Maybe that explained its inaccuracies, when it would sometimes ring up a candy bar when I was scanning the barcode for cigarettes. But inaccuracy wasn't what began to scare me. The scanner, while sitting in its worn-out cradle, would begin scanning items all on its own. The first time it happened, I was reading and heard the familiar electronic beep. I looked up from my book in confusion, thinking a customer had slipped inside the shop while I wasn't looking and attempted to use the scanner. But I was alone, as I nearly always was. The bell above the door sat still and silent. Then I heard the beep again, the unmistakable sound of the scanner. My eyes slid to the register. There on the monitor were 2 items the scanner had rung up: 16 feet of rope and a hacksaw. I'd sold the last hacksaw 2 days ago to a couple of campers, and we didn't carry rope in that length, only paracord. So where had the barcodes come from? How did the scanner even ring them up without me physically moving it? Chalking it up to malfunctioning equipment, I avoided the items. But 10 minutes later, the scanner beeped again. And it kept beeping, as it scanned all sorts of alarming items. I stared at the growing list on the register. Hatchet, tarp, shovel. I thought I heard a footstep and looked up quickly. But there was no one in the store. The scanner beeped again. Hunting knife. Shaken, I grabbed my cigarettes and hurried out the back entrance. In the lonely glow of the single outside bulb, I smoked and stared out into the darkness of the mountain. Something got you spooked? The maintenance man / security guard, in truth a 70-year-old man who was best friends with the owner and likely employed as a favor to keep him busy, emerged slowly from the shadows with his hands up so as not to scare me. "Scanner's acting up," I mumbled. "Let me guess," the old man said. "Lots of scary things ain't no decent person got a reason to be buying all at once." I stared at him in surprise. "Before you worked here, there was another girl doing your job. Deborah was her name. Was working the overnight shift, same as you, when 3 strangers came into the shop." The old man shook his head. "They weren't from around here, and they were around here for all the wrong reasons. They bought all those things you saw, and Deborah, she worried just as you are. After they left, she tried calling the police, but her phone wouldn't work. No signal. And those 3, they'd been watching through the window to see if she'd try and report him. When they saw her with the phone, they came back inside." I held my breath. "Then what?" He stared hard at me. "They used them things you keep seeing being scanned. Used them on poor Deborah. Rest her soul." I shook my head. "No way, this is a prank. You're fooling me, teasing the new employee." He sighed and shook his head. "Wish I were." I finished my smoke and went back inside. Though I'd pretended to be brave to the old man, I was shaken inside. I didn't know what to think or believe. My eyes went immediately to the scanner sitting in its cradle. It was silent, but it had been busy while I was outside. The register monitor showed dozens of terrible items waiting to be paid for. I picked up my phone. No signal. The scanner beeped. Razor blades. When the front door chimed, I grabbed my purse and escaped out the back door. I drove as fast as I could, and I never looked back. I used to work the register with my bare hands. There was a bottle of hand sanitizer beneath the counter that I used whenever I felt the need. But it wasn't until Mr. Frizzy began coming in that I felt the sanitizer wasn't enough. He was a rough-looking older man with wild, springy blonde hair, which led me to giving him his nickname, Mr. Frizzy. He'd stumble into the shop and grin with a handful of teeth when he saw me. "Smile," he'd bark. "Young girls should always smile at men." I'd ignore him and ring up the bag of candy he'd buy. At first, he used coins to pay. Then he began paying with bills, and that was worse. The bills were always damp, and sometimes outright wet. I didn't dare spend time thinking of how they came to be that way. I keep my expression blank as I smoothed out and counted the limp, crumpled bills. But Mr. Frizzy would laugh at me. "Anything wrong with my money?" he'd ask. You should smile when you count it. It's good money. Every time he came into the store, I'd groan and pull the sanitizer within easy reach. Then one day, the money he handed me was spattered with dark brown liquid. I didn't know what it was, and that worried me. I was new at the store. I didn't know if I had the right to refuse the money. Probably not, so I gritted my teeth and used the tips of my fingers to sort the cash. Mr. Frizzy laughed at me the entire time. I used 4 pumps of sanitizer after he left. The next shift, I wore blue vinyl gloves. Mr. Frizzy laughed even louder when he saw them. He knew that he'd won, and I kind of hated him for it. It turned out he wasn't the only strange customer to come into the shop, however. Near the end of my shift one night, an abnormally tall man came in. He was so tall he needed to stoop to pass through the doorframe. I couldn't help taking a step back when he approached the counter and loomed over me. "I need currency," he said to me in a weird, halting voice, like he was sorting through which words to use. "This is a convenience store, not a bank," I told him. The man was so thin the skin pulled tight over his face, showing me his skeleton. His eyes were oddly flat and didn't reflect the light. While staring at me, he pulled something out of his pocket and laid it on the counter. It was a small stack of 15 or so bills, so crisp they looked like they'd been minted a few minutes ago. The bill on top was $100. "Will this suffice?" the man asked me. "I don't know what you mean," I said. "I can't take bills over 20. You'll need to get change from elsewhere if you want to buy something here." The man looked down at the bills. "I see." Without another word, he turned and walked out of the store, leaving his money behind. I stared in shock at the stack. There must be over $1,000 there. I pushed the stack over, and sure enough, all the bills beneath were also $100 bills. Excited, I picked them up to study them closer. They looked real enough, felt real from what I could tell through the gloves. As I held one bill up to the light to check for watermarks, I felt something funny against my fingertips. I looked closer and then gasped and dropped the money to the counter. The bill was infested with tiny bugs. They looked like worms, about half the size of a grain of rice. They weren't simply covering the money, they seemed to be embedded in it, like they'd been woven into the paper. Born in it, maybe. Bred into it, was a weird thought that came into my head. With a shudder, I pushed the money away from me, just as the doorbell chimed. Mr. Frizzy had entered the shop. He ambled up, grinning like usual. "Why don't you smile when a man comes in?" he demanded loudly. But when he saw the money on the counter, his eyes widened and his smile fell away. "You can have it," I told him quickly. "You can have it if you promise never to come in here again." He licked his lips. "All of it?" "Only if you never come back. Otherwise I'll tell the police you stole it from me." Mr. Frizzy didn't hesitate. He dove forward and scrambled for all the crisp $100 bills, clutching them to his chest with his bare hands. He looked up at me and cackled with glee. I could tell from his grin that he intended to break his word and return later to harass me. But for the first time since I worked there, I smiled back at him. "Have a nice day," I told him. I haven't seen him since.